To another week 6 to be exact. Just like that, huh? How time does fly. Hope you guys are good. Hope you've had a cool week and that you've been enjoying this new change in the weather now that the sun is returning. Yay, sun! Welcome back, sun. So, I want to open this week's module with a cool thing that I want to share. And that is actually a cool personal electric vehicle that I had never heard of before, and that's called the electric unicycle. And on a whim, I found this YouTube channel by this person called Wrong Way, who was riding an electric unicycle. I was like, wow, I want to do that. So I got myself an entry-level electric unicycle, and I've been practicing it, and this is like my second week into it, and I'm able to ride it a little bit now, but I'm going to continue working on it. And so yeah, without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to the electric unicycle. Now, just because I think it looks really cool and futuristic. Now, granted, this video is of an extreme rider. I would call them a Super Saiyan, and also with a really high-end unicycle that's going super fast. But check it out. Look at how intense this is. I mean, of course, he's going really fast, and his electric unicycle is really high end. But just so that you can see like what it is. So that's intense, huh, guys? It honestly, now that I've started being able to ride it, just like just very basics, and like I said, I got an entry level one, and I've been riding around my neighborhood. It seriously feels like you're gliding, kind of like. Did you guys ever watch Dragon Ball? And like Goku would always go flying Nimbus, and he had this cloud that would help him glide. That's very much how the electric unicycle feels. So I recommend it. Okay. Without further ado, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what we're going to have for this week. So let's start with our syllabus here. And, all right. So look, the first signpost that we have is our first current event assignment. And I will explain what that is going to entail. Next thing we have is our workshop for our Technology and Us paper that we started to look at last time. So let's get into it. Let's go into our. Well, that's interesting. 2 of them opened. All right. Why did 2 of them open? Because I just restarted my computer and like 2 of these open. No matter. Okay. The first thing that I want to show you is the peer review workshop. So here is the link for it, and the format is going to be just like what we did for our pandemic essay, and that is that you're going to be responsible for turning in at least 2 pages. So you're going to be responsible for turning in your rough draft for the Technology and Us paper. Remember, I'll say it again, there's no such thing as a perfect first draft. Truly, you just write, and just vomit out your ideas, no matter how disjointed they may be. Just get out your ideas. It's all part of the writing process. So please have at least 2 of those done. Of course, the minimum length requirement for the final draft is 3.5, but for the rough draft, I'm asking that you have at least 2 full pages so that it could be a substantial amount for your classmates to actually be able to help you with what you have so far. So that is going to be due, just like last time, by Wednesday, which is the 24th, March 24th. And just like last time, the feedback for it will be due by Sunday, okay? March 28th. Now, in terms of distribution, it'll be exactly the same. It won't be any different. So the Canvas system is going to distribute your 3 rough drafts exactly 1 minute after after the deadline. So that's going to be on Thursday, March 25, right at 12 a.m. It's going to distribute it. So remember, you will not get rough drafts to look at unless you submit a draft yourself, right? Just like last time. So if you were one of those people who did not submit a draft last time, now's your chance to redeem yourselves, my friend. Another chance is before us. So redeem yourself and make sure to turn in a rough draft so that you can participate in our workshop. Okay, so here and in terms of the actual logistics for leaving the comments and the feedback, then if your memory is a little fuzzy, then please take a look at the video that I recorded for our first workshop. And that's where I go over the details of the nuts and bolts of how to actually work the tools that Canvas allots us here. All right, so here are the workshop questions to consider. Number 1, highlight your classmate's thesis statement. Now, remember that the thesis has both the identification of the topic, claim about the topic, and supporting reasons, which is the direction, right? So, ID, claim, direction. Now, in this case, though, the thesis has to be your classmate's response to the central question of this paper. That is a very specific situation that we have here, because the prompt actually has a central question. So your classmate's thesis has to directly answer this question. And that question, of course, is, what is the role of technology in our current society? The role of technology in our current society is blah, 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 blah. You can say, like, maybe if you say that it's like helpful or something to make our lives easier, then your classmate will also include like primary examples for what areas they see that most pronounced, right? It's the evidence, it's the support. And yeah, so you're going to highlight that. And like I said, it needs to be an actual response to the question, okay? If they don't actually have like a direct response, if they don't explicitly answer the central question, then you can help out your classmates by taking a look at what is the content that they have in their body paragraphs, and based upon what you see there, what would you surmise is their response to this question of what is the role of technology in our current society. So you can help them out with what you surmise is their thesis based on their body paragraphs. Here's another one, transitions, right? So as you look at these shifts from topic to topic, even within the paragraph itself, within the same paragraph, or even from one paragraph to the next, then remember that we never just want to fly from one topic to the next. We always want to bridge them, right? By really making it clear just what the point of commonality is between both topics, right? And you can take a look at the first module that we had. We looked at transitions back in our grammar lesson on the first module. Okay. Yeah, so you can take a look at that. Is your classmate properly citing any outside sources that they might be bringing into the conversation of their essay? So, granted, this paper does not have a compulsory research element, but it is indeed helpful, because if you're able to offer some context as to what the pandemic is, what it is that pandemic, that's the last essay. I'm sorry. In this case, if you're able to bring in some sources if they want to bring in some information for how technology is used, maybe some statistics, if they are claiming that it's beneficial and it makes their lives easier, maybe they can find some very specific examples. If you recall on my example, in the prompt, or actually no, it wasn't the prompt, it was in the brainstorm. So if my focus was that the role of technology in our current society is to make our lives easier, and my focus is going to be particularly in the sphere of healthcare and just overall surgery, then of course I might want to bring in some sources so as to further expand on that, right? So if your classmates do bring in other sources, then make sure that they properly cite them. Remember, guys, we went over citation practices, so make sure that they're introducing what the source is. Is it an article? Is it from a book? Is it from, I don't know, an interview, a documentary? And also, who's the author, right? And not only their first and last name, but also like how are they an authority figure on the subject, right? And yeah, and then obviously the name of the article or book or whatever it is that they're drawing from. So it could be something like according to Eric Garcia in his article, in his article, the many benefits of technology in the surgery room, he states blah 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 blah. So remember to help out your classmate there. And then of course when we have the in-text citations, we have the parentheses and we have the author's last name followed by the page number, right? So okay. Using quotation marks, obviously. Where is your classmate's draft strong? So after reading it, in what areas could it use more work? So maybe some weaker areas that you could see them improving, and offer some suggestions for how they could strengthen those areas. And then anything else that you'd like to add. So these are our guiding questions for this workshop. And I know you guys did an awesome job on the first one. So keep up that same spirit. So that is it for the workshop. We already mentioned the deadlines. Wednesday is when the rough draft is due for this, and please offer feedback by Sunday. Okay, next one is the current event, which is the first time we're going to do this. It's a lot of fun. So okay, so essentially for this assignment, you're going to select a written article. Yes, it has to be written. No, you can't select the video. No, you can't select, maybe some interview that you had. No, it has to be a written article. Because this is a writing class. This is an English writing composition class. So yeah, it has to be written. Another thing is that it has to be credible. So nothing from the National Enquirer where it might be talking about some celebrities giving birth to werewolf twins or some far-fetched thing like that. No. Now, you can absolutely choose an article on any topic that you're interested in. So if you're into video games, maybe you can find an article about how the PS5 sales are going or why they're still sold out. Or maybe there's a new video game release, so you can find an article about that. If you're into music, maybe you can find an article about maybe a band that you like and the fact that they've just released a new album. If you're into makeup, find an article about some particular makeup product, and maybe there's a more ethical one, or whatever the case may be. If you're into sports, then you can absolutely find a sports article. So provided that it's credible, it could be about whatever topic you're interested in. That's where this comes in. That's where the fun comes in, is that you can choose something that you care about. Me personally, I like animals a lot and I like nature, so I would choose something from National Geographic. So, and if you really love sports, you can probably look at Sports Illustrated or whatever. But the point is, if you know what publications you like and what types of topics you like, then absolutely look for those types of articles. Okay, so essentially, so here's the actual task itself. Number one, you're gonna write, and you're gonna write in it in your write-up and say, what is your current event about? What's happening in it, right? So report, right? Second one is engage, right? Why does it matter? Who is affected? Okay, so why does it matter? Who is affected? So there's a reason why you chose the article, and yeah, so make it clear why it matters, why it's important, who is affected. So for this next one, how does a story do its rhetorical work? So rhetorical work, let's talk about that. First of all, we have to establish that writing performs social action. Writing does things. And across different genres, there are very concrete actions that writing performs. So everything from the genre of the wedding invitation, it's to let people know to come to a wedding, everything to the expository piece, which exposes us to information. Maybe there's some hurricane or something, or the vaccines, right? Another one, everything from an editorial piece, an opinion piece. A lot of times they have the objective of persuading, right? So let's stick with that one. Let's say I was reading an article from Los Angeles Times about, actually, I was reading an article, I was looking at an article, and I was seeing how there's this proposed bill in California for electric bikes to not be taxed, right? Because there's this move to get people to ride their personal electric vehicles more like an electric bike instead of driving their car. So there's that incentive, right? And so of course, let's pretend I was reading an opinion piece, and it's talking about exactly that, about why you should ditch that car and forget about the fossil fuel and instead get yourself an electric bike and let that be your mode of transportation. So if my objective as a writer was to persuade you, okay, if that's my objective, what the rhetorical work is how I go about making those moves to persuade you to ditch that car and instead get yourself an electric bike. So I have a document here that talks a little bit more about rhetorical devices in a nutshell. So if you can go ahead and open that, and I'm going to download it because that makes the image larger. Okay, there we go. So again, to recap, writing does things, right? It performs social action. A piece of writing has an objective. It has a purpose. It has something that it wants to do. Okay? So rhetorical devices is how the author moves to achieve this objective, right? So take a look at the first one. The first one is logos. So it helps me to think about these three letters, the fact that it starts with log. It helps me to remember that it's logic. So logos is an appeal to logic. So anytime that we see something like statistics or mathematical figures or diagrams or pie charts, something that is appealing to our logic as a reader, right? The next rhetorical device is ethos. And again, I love that the first three letters are ETH because that helps me to remember that it's an appeal to ethics. And remember that ethics explores right and wrong. What is right and what is wrong? Additionally, rather than just being an appeal to ethics, it also establishes the speaker or author as a credible or valuable source. I have a good example. A couple of semesters ago, we looked at Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and this was at the March on Washington, right? And Dr. Reverend King was introduced as America's moral leader. So the person that introduced him said, "And now, coming to you, America's moral leader, Dr. Martin Luther King." So that is a move of ethos because it was establishing Dr. MLK as a credible or valuable source on the subject, right? So, okay. So what is this that so we were talking about what is ethics, explores right and wrong. So there's this example of it looks at like a lot of times we consider whether or not certain things that science does, if it's ethical or not. Like maybe someone might consider if it's ethical or not to clone a sheep, right? Like if we're determining, okay, where is the line of playing God, right? Is there a line? What is right? What is wrong? So that's ethics, right? And that's what an appeal to ethos is. Now, this last rhetorical device, pathos, unfortunately, this one does not have that same little shortcut where we can just look at the first three letters, and it'll sound like the appeal to whatever it is that it's doing. Actually, pathos is, if I remember correctly, it's a Greek word. So let me look this up. And okay, see, check this out. So pathos is from Greek, and it means suffering or experience. So suffering. Now, check this one out. This is from Merriam-Webster. The Greek word pathos means suffering, experience, or emotion. Now, with that in mind, now that we understand that it's suffering or emotion, now it all makes sense why an appeal to pathos is an appeal to emotion. I always thought that it was funny how this Greek word pathos means both suffering and emotion, kind of like a jab, that if you let like all of your life be only led by emotion, then there'll be like a lot of suffering, perhaps. I don't know. I always thought that was a little funny how that Greek word can means both suffering and emotion. So if we return to our example, we were talking about that potential article that we're looking at about why you should ditch that fossil fuel car, why you should ditch the car and instead get an electric bicycle. So the writer, now that we know what these rhetorical devices are, an appeal to a logos, if it's utilizing logos, the rhetorical device logos, then it might be like, okay, it might offer a statistic or a pie chart that offers, here's the amount of gasoline cost that you can save if you switch over to an electric vehicle. So that's logos. An appeal to ethos, so ethics, so right and wrong. They might be talking about how we can minimize our carbon footprint, right, and thus contributing to the decreasing of our carbon monoxide output, right? That thus leads to global warming. So it's like, hey, it's the right thing to do, right? That's ethos. Pathos in this case might be, I don't know, perhaps emotion. So perhaps it might be speaking to the fact that when we drive cars, we're contaminating and polluting the atmosphere, and that thus affects, I don't know, making people terribly sick or something. I don't know if it could pull at your heartstrings. A lot of times, as you can notice, both ethos and pathos are quite related. But there's that little distinction that ethos is more an appeal to ethics, which is right and wrong, and pathos is emotion. A really good one for pathos is, let's say, have you ever seen those infomercials that it's to donate money to a foundation to help, say, like abandoned pets or something, or and it'll show like a really scraggly dog that's like, it's like, oh, this is Whisker, or Whiskers is a cat name, huh? We'll say this is Rufus. Rufus is really hungry and cold, and then like it shows him like shivering and just like a really deplorable state. So it's like it's pulling at your heartstrings, and it's like, but you can change that with just such and such cents per day or something like that. So that's pathos. Now let's return to our current event. Now that we have that, and you guys can be looking at those whenever you do your current events, that's what we mean by this. How does it do its rhetorical work? So you have to do two things. Number one, look at your article and determine, okay, what is the author trying to do with this article? What objective are they trying to achieve? Number one. Number two is, how are they achieving that? Are they using certain buzzwords that will elicit a particular response in us? If so, what are those words? And now that you're armed with this knowledge of these rhetorical devices, you can pepper that into your current event write-ups here. Okay. So what genre of writing does it fall under? So consider the genre, just because genres are particular spaces for writing, and within these particular spaces, there are these particular objectives and things that they do, right? Like we said, opinion pieces often are moving to persuade, right? Expository pieces are exposing us to information. I have another good one. The classifieds, right? In the LA Times, the classifieds wants to sell a service or good, right? And it wants to make it as appealing as possible so as to sell it. That's its objective. Okay. What traits identify the genre as such within your story? This is a big one too. Okay, so all this, you see how we reported a little bit. The next one is your reaction, right? So you actually want to connect. What's your reaction to the story? Do you care? Why or why not? Well, obviously you should care because you chose the story. Don't choose an article about I don't know, the value of gold ingots decreasing if that is terribly boring to you. No, choose an article that you really care about and you're into, right? Does it affect you? Does the article affect you in some way? How does it make you feel? What does this mean what does this mean on a global scale, if at all? So some articles actually have global implications, like, hey, like this nationwide pandemic that we're experiencing, right? Or maybe, I don't know, something about leaders having talks pertaining to, say, like nuclear weapons or something. That'll affect the whole world, right? So some stories do have global implications. So if so, then you can recognize that. All right, so current event assignments will be at least 2 pages, at least 2 double-spaced 2 pages. MLA, 1-inch margins, Arial or Times New Roman. And here we have some student samples, so you can see what some potential iterations could be of that. And I believe that is all that we have. Yep, that's all that we have for this module. So, yeah, current event and workshop. Let me go ahead and make this a little bigger. So, my friends, with that being said, happy workshopping, happy writing. Remember, there's no such thing as a perfect first draft. Do not put those impossible expectations on you to achieve perfection right at once. Nope. Writing is a process. So get out your ideas, vomit them out. And with the current event, find an article that you really care about. Another thing, I actually forgot to mention, but you'll see in the requirements that you also need to have a works cited page, right? Obviously, since the source, works cited page, since the source is actually not your own head, right? It's an outside source. Make sure to have that. All right, my friends, I wish you a beautiful week, and see you guys next week. And if you have any questions, please let me know if you want to schedule a Zoom meeting or anything. All right, guys, enjoy your week.